Hello, good afternoon everybody and welcome to another Art for All group. My name is Lucy and I'm a creative artist working at St Christopher's Hospice. Ordinarily we would have an open art group that any patients, outpatients, friends, family, staff or community members from the local area could join, and it normally lasts between about 2 and 4 on a Tuesday afternoon, but until we're all able to be together again, I'm hosting this group online. So today I'd like to celebrate another art anniversary. So in October this year it was the 300th anniversary of the birth of Giovanni Battista Piranesi, and some of you might have heard of him, some of you might not have heard of him, but he was somebody who, when in the 18th century, when rich people from around Europe were starting to explore the rest of the continent, going to Rome, going to Paris, picking up souvenirs and art pieces along the way. He created etchings, which are drawings that are scratched into a copper plate and then have bits of the copper plate eroded with ink, with acid, and then they're dipped in ink, and then you can make multiple prints from these copper plates. And it was kind of like having a very expensive postcard of where you were. It was before photography, but these were sort of accurate depictions of these often Roman historical sites. And he was really the master of one-point perspective. So that was a very popular technique during the Renaissance, and he made these incredibly beautiful, detailed images, often almost surreal as well, with these monumental buildings. And I've got some examples that I can show you. So here we go. I will get these up. Okay, so here we have a prospect of the courtyard. So all these beautiful pillars. I think this might be St Peter's Basilica in Rome, but I could be getting it wrong. So you have these kind of huge classical columns, tiny people dwarfed by the buildings, and huge amounts of detail. Imagine all of this scratched onto a copper plate with a pen that's sharper than a normal pen, and then the huge amount of the drawings beforehand as well. But also everything looks really serene and calm, and everything kind of balanced. I think that's what Piranesi tried to go for in his images. So I have an activity that I've started here. So what you need to do is get yourself a rectangular piece of paper and then draw straight lines across the two corners so you create a cross. And then what you want to do is create another smaller rectangle in the middle, and right in the very middle you want quite a dark spot, and that's called your vanishing point. So if you're going down a street, if you're going down a really long straight street, if you could see all the way, if there was nothing in your way, no buses, no cars, no trams if you're in Croydon, you would be able to see right to this vanishing point. Think of like the desert in the Midwest, or in the West in America, these long roads that kind of disappear to a vanishing point. So that's what we're going for. And I'll stop my share for just a moment. I'll show you my result of this. So it's a very simple thing. So I've started drawing a house here. I started drawing cobbles on the street, and I've put another house here. So we're not actually going to be going right all the way to the vanishing point. I could continue these houses all along here, have houses all along here. I've done little roofs, but you could have a house. This could be kind of like a courtyard here, as we've seen in the other images of Piranesi, but just a very simple way of making perspective. But if I share my screen again, what I'm going to tell you is that Piranesi's perspective is not technically absolutely right in terms of perspective. So what we can see here is this is an image by Piranesi. You can see over on one side all of these red lines all vanish into one point. That's the vanishing point. But you can see these diagonal lines here. They all remain, they're completely parallel. They're kind of equal distance apart. And what that means is that actually Piranesi has forced the perspective to mean that these diagonal lines stay the same. He's given these arches exactly the same proportions, but just made the last ones slightly shorter. But actually, in terms of width, they're pretty much the same as the first one. The diagonal lines stay the same. So if we look here, this is what real perspective should look like. So you can see the diagonal lines here. The first one is that diagonal line is at one angle. The second one is at a slightly different angle. So if we go back, see that these green lines are they're all at exactly the same angle, whereas in this one you have this one like this, and the second one's like this, the third one's like this. So you can see it kind of, the diagonal lines go in like that. So actually Piranesi is doing something that allows us to see more of the image and allows us to see a more harmonious, in his, would be his opinion, beautiful classical image, perhaps to use the Latin term, an Arcadian image, so this idea of perfection and kind of order, that things remain ordered. And here we can see, I suppose what I mean, the top image shows the diagonals staying straight, and then you can see that they slightly change, so that you end up with the straight on image at the bottom turning to this idealised image on the bottom right. And here we can see it again. The yellow lines show that the diagonal parallels remain exactly the same, and it is a very calming feeling. And it almost acts as like a fisheye lens when you have a camera, where you can see more than you technically should be able to see, and everything remains a lot cleaner and clearer. So this is kind of maybe really the art of Piranesi. It makes this complicated stuff look very simple. And in the end, actually, we can use it for our own devices. We can use this vanishing point technique to draw anything we want. And you might not have a Roman Forum sitting in your back garden. I know I certainly don't. But you could draw any room of your house using this vanishing point technique. And either you can keep the perfect proportions of Piranesi, or you can maybe do a slightly different perspective. Maybe you come up with a slightly more dreamlike landscape by forcing perspective certain ways, and it could have really interesting results. So, thank you very much for listening today, and I hope you found it interesting. I hope you have a go at drawing your own vanishing points and your own scenes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.